Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the J.Gray Podcast. I'm your host, Joshua Gray. This is number 7, and I am joined by my buddy Zay, also known as IMA. You just dropped a new album. Congratulations. I'm excited to have you here, man.
I'm stoked to be here.
It is crazy, our history. We work together at White Swan Public House Show. Shout out to White Swan and everybody tuning in right now.
Hey.
Aaron Vincent says hi. First of all, let's talk about the album because this is a huge deal for you. Again, congratulations. I've been listening to it all morning. Definitely a lot of tracks that I enjoy, a lot of lyrics that I enjoy. From your perspective as an artist, where did this journey start and how has it been going so far for you?
I mean, it all started when I was young. I started out DJing, so it was just buying records and just working all that. Met a couple producers, learned how to produce beats, mainly off a computer, and then it was got an MPC, started making beats from that. There's different rappers and stuff. So I was DJing, so old heads in Spokane, Washington. Shout out Spokane, Washington, South Hill living. That's where I met a bunch of homies. But there was a bunch of old head MCs and stuff. So I would DJ for them when I was young, 14 years old, get paid to do that. That was how I made money throughout high school pretty much, was playing shows with these old heads. And I started not liking the way they were rapping on my beats and stuff like that. So I was just yo, maybe I should pick up the microphone and start rapping. So I did. So yeah.
Nice. So you kind of felt this vacuum or void of all right, listen, I know something could be better here, so I definitely want to do it.
Yeah.
What was the journey of starting to write the lyrics and really get into that world? Because if your kind of first passion was making the beats, I mean, obviously you kind of have a vision or something behind it or a story behind it when you're making it, and you wanted to express that story.
Yeah.
What was that kind of process for you?
You could talk to any of these producers who don't rap publicly. They all have secret bars. They all sitting there writing some stuff to their beats. Even if they don't let their homies hear it or let anyone hear it, they're writing some lyrics. So I've always been writing. It just took a minute for me to be all right, I actually wanted people to hear what I'm spitting. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. And then writing wise, that's just day in, day out. I'll be sitting somewhere, I'll be oh, that's a funny bar, write it down. Yeah. Especially nowadays with phones. I don't know how they did it in the 90s, little notepads correcting stuff.
Yeah. It was all handwritten, man. It was all handwritten back in the day. Nick Swardson, who's kind of one of my favorite comedians back in the early 2000s, would talk about friends of his that would lose all their jokes because their hard drive crashed.
Yeah, damn.
He'd be well, I write all my jokes on a notebook. Yeah. The only thing that could happen is I could lose it, which would be horrible.
Yeah.
And my previous guest that I had in here, Will Roger, he has a notebook, and he'll just have it with him all the time, and he'll just start writing musical phrases or notes because he's a video game composer.
Yeah.
And I need to do that more because I'll think of a joke or a scenario or a really good piece of dialogue, and I go, oh, that's great, I should write that down. And I put it in my phone, and I'm but I use my phone for so much stuff, and I'm trying to get away from screens. I need to have a journal with me at all times.
I got you.
Yeah. So
I was just watching this, what was it? It was Danny Brown on, I can't remember the producer's show, but yeah, he was talking about, he's got a phone specific for writing bars, and then another one, he's yeah, it's my Samsung Galaxy, who got this for da-da-da-da, but yeah, it's funny.
It's good to have those different tools and kind of compartmentalize the different tools that you use. This is for your life, your work, your business, and then for your artistic side.
That was a Kenny Beats show. Yeah, Kenny Beats. Shout out Kenny Beats.
Nice. I also want to give a shout out to my guy Ishmael, jumping in right now. Ish and I produced the show for Microsoft over this summer, the Mixer Matchups, and he's doing a lot of cool stuff in Seattle as well. I went to a really cool party he did in Soto. So yeah, I gotta connect you guys, man, because he definitely knows some artists in the city as well.
Awesome.
So you had your album launch party. What was that like, and what type of reception have you had so far since you launched the album?
I mean, it's been good. I paid for promotion, so it's just a bunch of avenues. Did this radio interview. I can't remember the PR firm I went through, but yeah, it's been all right. I'm not super stressing on it. I'm working on a bunch of new stuff right now. This was just putting my foot in the door, getting it on iTunes, Spotify, all that stuff. So yeah, and this was stuff I was sitting on for a minute. So it's just good to actually release that. A lot of artists sit on stuff for too long. I was just man, if I sit on this for any longer, it's not gonna get out to the world. So I was just yeah.
It's super cathartic, man, right? Because you have no idea how the audience is gonna respond to it. You don't know what type of success you're gonna have.
Exactly.
But you're never gonna know unless you put it out there.
It's facts. And a lot of people they drop something and it'll be years go by, and then they have a single that takes off, and then people go to their back catalog and oh, this is crazy. I understand this more now from that. So it's just making sure your stuff's out there. So when that does happen, God willing, like, yeah.
You remember that song "Rock Around the Clock"? It's an old rock and roll song from like the 50s.
I probably do if I heard it.
That song was recorded years before it became popular.
Yeah, it started popping.
And it became popular because it was associated with a film, and the film's producer's son had that record, and he was listening to it, and the producer's like, oh, I think that song could fit for the film, and then that song exploded. So you never know, man. Just you as an artist, you always have to just be honest with yourself and the art that you put out there.
Thanks,
And at the end of the day, that's what matters most. Because the fame and the money and all that stuff is awesome. Don't get me wrong. I mean, if you can make a full-time job or become a millionaire with the art that you create, dope.
Yeah.
But that can be fleeting, or you will not feel fulfilled if the art that you're creating is not authentic or honest.
Thanks, man. Yeah, it's true. I mean, unless you're going at it for that. Like, I mean, there's people making cookie cutter, like, music or art forms in general that's just for the mass public and to make money, which, I mean, that's fine, too.
There's evidence for that, too.
Yeah, most definitely.
It's like what they say in the film world, like, one for you, one for me. Like, you do this film for the studio, but you tell them, like, well, then I want to do this film. Like Christopher Nolan, he really didn't want to make The Dark Knight Rises, but he told Warner Brothers, like, if you let me do Inception, then I'll do The Dark Knight Rises. And they're like, okay.
Yeah.
Because Inception is the next thing that he wanted to do.
Yeah.
So just got to be...
dope. Dark Knight Rises was dope, too. Yeah. I mean, it's like,
That's right. Everybody wins, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Everyone
gets what they want. Like, one's like a superhero film. I could see how he wanted to get out of that lane. He's like, I want to get into these crazy, like, different plots. But,
First of all, the link. Where can people find your album?
Link? Okay, so it's like Spotify, so it's just like IMA, Calm Down. Like, it's easier to find with Calm Down. I'm still, like, trying to work out that. There's other people that go by IMA.
Gotcha. I have the direct Spotify link, too, in the description-ish, so you can look in the description, and it links right to your album as well. So search IMA, Calm Down is the album name. Boom, you can find it, no problem.
All that. Yeah, most definitely.
Awesome. So speaking of artistry and being in different lanes, have you seen Joker yet?
Joker, I have seen Joker.
I've seen that film 3 times, bro.
That's what's up. It was good. I saw it with my girl like last week. I think we saw it at Cinerama. It was funny, like they were doing the bag check and stuff because of what happened with the what was it, Dark Knight?
Yeah, with the Aurora, Colorado. But that was mishandled because the perpetrator that did that was not trying to be the Joker.
Yeah,
he just wanted to show up to a crowded film, and that happened to be the film that weekend. But because he had different colored hair, one of the police officers during a press conference had mentioned, like, something associated with the Joker. Then that blows up, right? So you have social media and the news blowing that up, and that wasn't 100% accurate.
But it did create jobs because all those people who are working security, they are getting paid to do that. So it created jobs.
That's right.
Silver lining, I guess. But that's feeding families.
I went and saw the film when it released on Thursday night here at South Center, close to where I live. They have a great AMC there. I saw it in IMAX. And there was police near the entrance. There were police cars outside, and I had no idea what this film was going to be about. I mean, I had an idea what it was going to be about, but I didn't expect it.
Most definitely.
But I didn't expect it to be as good as it was. Nor did I expect it to be commentary on society. Some people are like, "Oh, it's just another white guy with problems." I'm like, no, it's not that. It is something deeper than that. And what I found so beautiful and yet surreal is when I walked out of the theater. Here I saw all these police officers still standing around for security, and I go, this is exactly what this film is talking about. It's repression and trying to put people down and maintain the current status quo rather than trying to help those that are less fortunate. And I went out there. This is exactly why films exist, to help tell the narrative of what we're suffering through, what society is going through. And I think Joker hit that so perfectly.
It was done extremely well, no question.
Which is why it's made over $750 million so far.
Sure, everyone's going to watch it. And like word of mouth, like that's the best way to sell something. It's not just like, like a commercial or something. Like you're not seeing that much like watching television, like go watch Joker. It's really word of mouth. People are like, yo, I watched this film. This is a good film. Go watch this film.
And especially in the backdrop of the current, comic book movie craze. I mean, the comic book film is now its own genre. But what Todd Phillips and the producers at Warner Brothers were able to do was, we're not going to worry about sequels. We're not trying to create a cinematic universe with this film. We are telling this self-contained story. And Joaquin Phoenix
killed it.
Best actor for sure, most likely best film of the year.
Oh, no question.
So I'm very, very happy that this type of artistic expression can still exist in film and utilize comic book characters. It was very, very good. So if you haven't seen it, please go see it. It's definitely a top contender for best film, and it has inspired me Twofold. One, to dress up as a Joker, I'm going all in for Halloween.
Shit,
but also that fire is back for me to get back on stage and get back to being an actor.
Cool, man.
I went to college for that. I've done that ever since I was 5.
Yeah.
I've done musicals, plays, all sorts of different roles that I loved. But the video game world allowed me to walk through a number of doors that would open for me that got me closer and closer to how the film and studio industry worked, and being a producer and being on live television, all these live shows gave me a plethora of tools and experiences and a wonderful body of work that I'm very proud of.
And you're comfortable, like you're comfortable in front of a camera. And if that's something that you want to do, then do it.
But I need to be stretched. I need to explore different characters and get away from screens. I want to be physically in front of people and performing again. I really miss it.
So more just like plays and stuff.
Yeah. Okay. So I want to be in a really good place financially. So I'm kicking ass and taking names as a bartender at White Swan, and probably gonna take on a shift or two at Radiator in November, depending on necessity, but just banking money and saving it so that money. After the winter in the early 2020, maybe in the spring, I want to just hit some auditions. And if like, all right, you're going to be performing six nights a week, and the only night off you have is Monday. And if they're not paying too much, I can be like, all right, well, it's good for my body of work, so I can do that for a couple months and then stop and then maybe jump back at White Swan for the summer. It's all dependent on what happens, but I have to do it. It's in my blood. I have to do it.
Straw, man. What's meant to be is going to be. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. That's why I like talking to fellow artists, man, because you feel that fire as well with your music, and you feel like you have to do it. Every day you think about it.
Yeah, no question. You'd be like, I'm shucking oysters at Walrus and the Carpenter right now, but every single day I'm there, I'm like, man, I could be making beats right now. It's like you're getting like railed with tickets talking to these people, and that's still in the back of your mind. You're just like, what could I be doing right now?
It's always in the back of the mind. But that also keeps you humble, teachable.
Yeah, no question. I mean, it's true. Like I said, like case what's meant to be is going to be. So I'm sitting there just like, all right, well, I'm learning something from the situation. And you like meet someone that's like in front of you that's just like, yo, talking about some random stuff. And you're like, oh, and that works. And that gives you something. Yeah. And when you go back to work on your art, you're even more like grateful to be able to do it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. And it gives you a lot more life experience and learning from others. That was one of the biggest reasons why I wanted to learn how to bartend. I kind of did things in reverse. I had success in the entertainment world, and then I became a bartender compared to vice versa. But the connection that you can make with people, the goofy ass moments that you'll have that can help inspire lyrics or, all sorts of things, I think is one of the most important things that we have in our youth. Mark Ruffalo said in a tweet that everybody should work in the service industry at least once, because he did it. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez did it. And a number of people that I've worked with as artists have done it.
Mad actors I've seen, they like started out like waitressing or something.
But it's that human connection, and also it's part of the performance. I mean, you're shucking oysters, but you're also making sure they look great as a presentation for.
And that Walrus, like people. I'm in front of customers. It's like being a bartender with the oysters, so you the full line next to it. But I mean, the same with like I've been bumping a lot of Sir lately, chasing Summer, great album. But he was working at Guitar Center before he was, got picked up by TDE, and now he's like wrote songs for Stevie Wonder and like a bunch of different stuff.
Awesome.
But it's just like. Yeah, he was just, local retail up until he was like 30, and then boom.
Yeah. Just got to keep fighting, man. Just got to keep fighting. The process for you, though, of working in the service industry here in Seattle, where was kind of the first places that you started, and what got you into shucking oysters and being an expert in that field?
I moved over here with Roman, who's the head chef of the White Swan.
Shout out to Roman.
But I transferred because we were over in Spokane, and I transferred from P.F. Chang's, the P.F. Chang's over there, and I started working at P.F. Chang's. And then I guess they didn't have a dishwasher or something at the White Swan, so the old head chef there, he was just like, yo, if you know anybody, da-da-da-da. It was like the weekends. And I was still waiting for the transfer to go over from the P.F. Chang's to start here in Seattle. So I was just like, bet, like, I'm trying to make money. Like, I'll come and do that. And then just like that, kept going for like maybe a couple weeks. And then they're like, yo, I need an oyster shucker. And I was like, all right, cool. So I started shucking oysters. Never shucked an oyster before. You remember Patrick?
Yeah.
Okay. So like the first day that I worked there, like I was like by myself shucking oysters, and like I've never really shucked oysters before, and he's just like clowning. He's just like, he said in like the dining room full of people, just like, we got a new oyster shucker, that's why he's hella slow or some shit like that. It's like hella clowning. I was just like, oh well, fuck this guy. I mean, I love Patrick, but
yeah,
Patrick
wow, so
is-
supportive, Patrick.
Yeah,
Thanks.
exactly. I was like, man, I don't know what I'm doing right here, but I mean, look at me now. Like, yeah, I'm definitely like at like it's like the number 3 oyster spot in like the country.
Yeah,
Renee Erickson, like great spot, and it's just like humble beginnings, but yeah.
same, man. You and I have that in common with Patrick, because Patrick taught me how to be a server practically day one. My job was as a bar back, but he's like, okay, here's how to properly set a table. Here's what this means. Here's what that means. And when I told him that I was in the Air Force and he was in the Navy, he ribbed me. He goes, "Oh, do you know what the salute is in the Air Force?" And I'm like, "Oh, you mean the chair force?" He's like, "Oh, you just put your hands up like this." I'm like, "Oh yeah, thanks a lot, Navy." Okay. But Patrick is one of those gentlemen. I think that, he may be rough around the edges occasionally, but I'd rather have somebody that's an expert and can just directly tell you, "Hey, this is how you do it," than
most definitely. Than like
beating around the bush. Yeah. So I'm
also, he's from Alaska. So.
Yeah, and he's doing all right. We hear from him here and there. He's growing hops. Doing a hop farm.
Yeah, I remember he was working on that beer.
Yeah. So best of luck to him, man. Hopefully we'll see him one of these days. But also he was very disgruntled, and I love his Twitter, how disgruntled he is about the city of Seattle, how much it has changed because of the gentrification and Amazon, Google, the major corporations. It's definitely a problem. But it was very fun to talk to him about those type of grievances, since he has lived here for practically his whole life.
Yeah, thanks. He's like a young kid out here.
Yeah. But so we have that in common. We both got a little bit grilled by him when we started out.
Yeah.
So tell me more about where you're currently oyster shucking, because I was actually in that neighborhood a couple nights ago to see him. I should have.
Yeah.
I was at Hales Palladium, the Hales Brewing Company, which is I think a couple blocks away from you.
Yeah, it's all Old Ballard. Yeah.
Gotcha. So tell me more about that spot and like why should people come in if they're in Seattle? Like what's good about it?
I feel like they're gonna come in regardless of what I'm saying. Like it's like decorated spot. Yeah. But yeah, there's an Amaro bar that's right next. It's a sister bar. That spot's tight. Like that's like in the Amaro book when you're like reading about Amaros. I don't know that much about Amaros, but every like day pretty much I'll go over there and like try some Amaros, and it's growing on me. Nice. I used to hate Fernet. Now I'm just like, okay, I can tolerate Fernet.
Have you had Chino?
Yeah.
Yeah, Chino tastes like Christmas. I really like that one. And there's another one. I don't think it's considered an Amaro. Maybe it's considered a digestif, because are all Amaros dark in color?
All the ones I've seen have been like some brown. Like
yeah, same for me. I don't know if that's the defining feature of it, but Becherovka is from the Czech Republic, and it tastes kind of like Chino, but slightly different. And those two, I'm like, all right, if anybody wants to know what it tastes like, this tastes like Christmas. Like on Christmas, I want to buy a bottle of both and just have a couple shots.
Facts. I mean, yeah, there's ones that taste like Coca-Cola. There's like weird like flavors, but yeah, they all have like a pretty bitter aftertaste.
Yeah.
So it's just like it's growing on me. I'm like, okay.
And it's fun to experiment with them as a bartender and combine them into different cocktails.
And no question. Yeah, the cocktails are ridiculous. But yeah.
All right. Well, I got to stop by one of these days. What days are you typically there?
I'm there usually Thursday through Monday, so like 5 days.
All right. The weekend schedule.
Just stacking money. Yeah.
That's good to hear, man. I'm doing 5 days a week. I'm off Tuesdays and Saturdays right now. So I like having the 2 days on, 1 day off, 3 days on, 1 day off.
Yeah, that's clean. It gives you some rest and like you can get some stuff done. So yeah.
True. But this weekend I'm taking a couple of days off. I'm going on a retreat. I'm really looking forward to it. I'll be off the grid, and I'll tell everybody about it afterwards. But it's something I've really looked forward to for a while. And it kind of feels that when I made that appointment for this retreat, I had a lot of things floating in my mind of what I wanted to do next. Now kind of I'm approaching that 2-year mark of having started to work in the service industry. Mm-hmm. And again, the acting, the being back and performing.
It's coming back at you.
It's so like, there. Yeah. It's so there. I'm sure you've kind of had some of those experiences as well, where in your mind you thought, okay, I need to work on these beats. I got to get at least these number of tracks. Yeah. And then you look back a couple months, like, damn, I have 4 tracks done. You know, just because I committed that time to get it done instead of just, I'll get to tomorrow.
Man, if it was a couple months and I only had 4 tracks done, I'd be like mad at myself. But yeah, man, it's true. Like you just like, I mean, sometimes I feel like I put too much pressure on myself. Like I just be like, yo, I get off work and I just need to like, I have to do this, and then it just stifles creativity. Like you'll just be like, man, I don't even like, why am I doing this? Like it's like, yeah, it's weird. So it's good to take that time off and just like, breathe a little bit and then come back just like hungry again. But Yeah. It all just depends, man. It's just knowing yourself and like how you're,
And we're still trying to get to know ourselves
facts,
too.
every
So we get
single
older.
day. Like, I mean, I can't remember whose quote was, but it's just like formula kills creativity. So it's just like if you keep doing the same thing over and over again. Because I thought for a second, like making a beat, I'm just like, all right, I just have like the perfect format for it. Like I already have like all my drums EQ'd and this way. All I have to do is plug in the whatever I'm using, like a synth or some shit. But then it was just like, man, this is just like the same thing. It just all sounds the same. I'm just making the same thing over and over again. So it's just like sometimes I do it that way. Sometimes I'm just going to like do something crazy to start a beat, you know, like try to get rid of formula, or the formula is no formula sometimes. So,
yeah. And you have to be uncomfortable in that space.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
If
you can't just be like, oh, I'm just know exactly what I'm like, da-da-da, because I'm just like, we're just going to make the same thing, or you're not going to make anything that's like, you know, actually sparking anything. So, yeah.
What are some of your inspirations right now that you're kind of like, you'll hear this or you'll listen to this artist, or I mean, even you'll watch a show or a film and you'll be inspired by something? Like, do you have kind of any sources that you always go to, or does it come from anywhere?
I mean, I guess it can come from like everything. Right now, I've just been watching a lot of like psychological thrillers, like horror films right now. I just like, I mean, it's like, you know, Halloween time. So I'm just like, yeah, I'm not really into that like gory, like Michael Myers, like that type of stuff.
The Austin Powers horror.
Yeah, Austin Powers.
So you're more of like the psychological, makes you think, kind of definitely. More to. I like those films too more than the jump scare films. I think that a lot of
I still think that jump scare ones are like kind of funny, but they're like a little like campy and corny, which is like, it has its place sometimes. But if
formulaic, if you will.
Yeah, but if I'm like really trying to get like some like, I guess like a scare or some shit, like get in that mood, then I'm gonna watch a psych thriller. What's
the scariest movie in your opinion?
The scariest movie? Yeah. I mean, Rosemary's Baby is pretty scary. Just like that whole, like those movies where it's like one person who's just like, yo, all this shit's going down, da da da, and everyone around them is just like, no, that's not what's happening, like da 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 da. Those ones always scare the most. Like it's just like, man, like just like being in that like position where you're just like, no, all this stuff's happening, but no, it's really every single person around you is just like out to get you.
Yeah. That's where you think like, am I going crazy or is this really happening type scenario. Event Horizon is the film that still, I almost have to like watch it like this. Have you ever seen that film? No. Sam Neill, Lawrence Fishburne.
Okay, it sounds familiar.
It takes place in space.
Okay.
And they are boarding a vessel that reached the event horizon of a black hole.
Okay.
And came back.
Damn.
But the whole crew died, but like very violently. And so they start to check what happened, and they're finding different things, and they look at the video, and you see just all this very graphic, gory stuff, and then the captain ripped out his own eyes, and he's holding his eyes towards the camera, talking to the camera. I'm just like, what the like, this is and I was, a young
really
teenager seeing it for the first time, and some of those images are just, blazing into my mind, but it was to depict hell. I mean, it was pretty much like they went into a different dimension of hell and came back, and they all went psychologically crazy. I mean, it still gets me. So that's definitely one of the scariest movies. But that's because of the gore, type stuff, the shock value. I would say psychological scary. I don't know if this is really count, but the documentary Ghosts of Rwanda.
Okay.
I mean, it's not a horror film in any measure of the sense, but just listening to the interview with the United Nations captain that was trying to get the Tutsis out. I believe it was the Tutsis. Well, it was a fight. It was a genocide between the Tutsis and somebody else, but he was trying to get the people out. And he went to meet with one of the leaders of the people that was running the genocide. And the way he describes being in that meeting, he's like, I could take out a pistol and shoot him right now, and maybe this would stop. He was just considering that at the moment, and how the devil was in the man's eyes when he was talking to him and stuff. And that really creeps me out because it really happened.
Yeah, facts.
And when people can be in this state of, we have to kill these lesser humans, we have to commit this genocide because, our religion says so, or our creed says so, our culture says so, whatever, people will be brainwashed or turn to that, or find the justification because the leaders do it, and so everybody gets machetes and they're killing all their neighbors. I mean, that's horrifying, man. What a downer. I know. Sorry.
I was like, it's about to go. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'd much rather watch Paranormal 3 or whatever.
Yeah, some ghost is pulling someone by the leg or something.
Sure.
Messing with their bed sheets.
I remember when Blair Witch was such a big thing.
just like that style of
the found footage.
Yeah, and there's like, oh man, we can make so many horror films on a budget.
Super, yeah. That's how Blumhouse got started. Was a super low budget horror films.
Paranormal Activity still like made a shit ton of money.
Yeah,
like it's like millions, and like how much did they spend on that movie? Like a couple $1,000s.
I think it's considered the highest grossing film in terms of investment to box office revenue.
Thanks.
Yeah,
because I mean, like these Avengers films, like it's like $1 billion and they make $3 billion. So it's just like you invest $1 billion and you make $3. That's still a good flip, but yeah, you still need to invest $1 billion to make a film.
Well, it's the same with Joker. Joker was, I think, $60 million to shoot, and then another $60-70 million for the marketing, so maybe $140 million total, maybe less than that, maybe $90 million total, and it's making $750. So the margin is huge on the profit.
Yeah, it's good flip, good. And people investing. Honestly, like investing in films would be good.
Yeah,
good spot to put it.
There was a new episode or new series that just launched called Watchmen, which is about
the Watchmen.
Yeah, but it takes place about 35 years after the comic. So it's not a sequel to the film, because the film changed a bit of the comic at the end. Did you ever watch the Watchmen film?
I watched it. Yeah, that's a classic. I mean, living with Roman for a bit, like that's like one of his favorite. I think that might be his favorite film in general.
Cinematography wise, it's probably one of my favorite films. It's probably Zack Snyder's best film.
You remember that graphic novel and that, like, it almost looks identical shot.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And the casting and just the entire tone was right on. It was right on.
So good. Yeah,
and it still holds up. The only thing that I wish they didn't change was in the comic, Adrian Vett, the multi-billionaire or whatever, instead of creating an explosion that goes off in different cities that's blamed on Dr. Manhattan, it's a giant squid monster that he teleports from a different dimension.
Oh, okay.
So it creates the threat of not Dr. Manhattan being the bad guy, but that there was an interdimensional invasion. And so that stopped the Cold War. That stopped Russia and America from fighting. They went, holy crap, where do these aliens come from? We have to band together.
Yeah.
And so in essence, that united humanity, but it was in a perverted way. And I think that's why that story resonates so well. Now, 35 years into the future, the series takes place in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And at first I thought, well, that's kind of an intriguing reason why. Why in the middle of the United States is this story taking place? The first scene is about the race riots that took place in 1921. And I had no idea that had happened. But people were...
It's crazy, and that's only like under 100 years ago.
It was like a war in the streets.
Yeah.
And the KKK members were in their hoods shooting at people, and African Americans were fighting back and trying to get the hell out of there. People were dropping dynamite from planes. It was crazy. I had no idea that happened. And that is the first scene in that series, and then it takes place from there. And fast forwards to 2019 to today.
Yeah.
And the world's a little bit different. Everybody's using electronic vehicles because of the Dr. Manhattan technology. Cops always have to wear masks because this group of people called the 7th Cavalry went and attacked cops everywhere on one night. I think they call it the White Night or something like that.
Weird name, but
or I'm sorry, they call it something specific. But the whole tone of vigilante justice, the police, they can't use weapons unless it's approved by headquarters. Yeah. So like this cop is trying to get his
actual peacekeepers.
Yeah, his gun to be unlocked, and he's talking to dispatch like, "Hey, I'm under threat. I need my gun unlocked." And I'm like, "Yeah, I'd really like that system. I'd much rather have police have no guns whatsoever unless they get it approved."
And like multiple people like having to like approve of a decision instead of just like one. Like it's just like
There's a show called The Andy Griffith Show. Okay. Way back in the day, he's a sheriff in Mayberry, and he never carries a gun.
Yeah.
And there's a wonderful monologue that he has of why he doesn't carry a gun. He's like, well, in order to do my job effectively, I'd much rather have people respect the badge and my position than fearing the gun.
Yeah.
Like, bro, if every cop...
And that's an old film.
Yeah.
Television show. So, yeah.
If every cop had that mentality, I think we'd be in a much better world. But then their justification would be like, well, the criminals... I'm like, well, then it's escalation. If you're armed, then the criminals are going to be armed.
Well, it's like, you brought me into this. Well, you brought me into this.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And I have a number of friends that are police officers, and I'm not trying to say, like, we got to take their guns immediately. It's more of, we need to have this conversation because obviously there's a problem. There has been a problem for a while. Where police officers, because they feel that they're being threatened, automatically go to escalating into violence and using their weapon when they shouldn't have.
Yeah.
And we keep seeing that over and over and again, where the solution seems to be just take away those weapons, and we won't have these people being killed. It just sucks, man, because there's so many police officers that are trying to do the right thing, and every time you see this, it's just another step backwards for them, and they get more and more frustrated. Anyways, I keep waiting for smarter people than us to figure this stuff out, and then I see elements of art that go, well, this is a great idea. Why don't we do it this way?
It's true. Right? I mean, yeah, art imitate life, life imitate art.
That's right. So you were living in Spokane, and then you moved to Seattle. How would you compare the two cities?
I mean, like, as a kid, like, growing up there, like, I remember, like, just, like, there was a bombing or, like, a bomb threat from the Aryan nations that happened in Spokane. Like, it's a lot more conservative over there than, like, it's kind of like Trump's country over there.
Yeah, East Washington.
But, yeah, over in Coeur d'Alene, like, the Aryan nations had a huge combine, and they would do parades all the time in Coeur d'Alene, which is, like, not that far away from Spokane. Which is funny because, like, Kanye West and, like, the Kardashians have, like, their summer home there, you know what I'm saying? Like, a bunch of rich people live over there. But, yeah, the Aryans used to march down Coeur d'Alene, and they would come over to Spokane a decent amount. Like, that's just, like, the structure and stuff over there. There's a lot of conservative, like, boony type. It almost seems like it's, like, Midwestern United States in, like, a little spot right here. It's like driving through middle of Washington. It's a bunch of just, like, poor white people who are, you know, a little bit racist and a little bit, which is funny because, like, Seattle's like that too. It's just, like, there's a lot more, like, minorities, and then, like, you got, like, the middle class, like, liberals and stuff like that. So it's just, like, it's blue, but it's still, like, a lot of red, which I feel like is, like, how the United States is really, even, like, California and stuff like that, where it seems like it's, like, it's not as red as it is, but it is pretty, like,
yeah. I saw a map that had all the blue marks for the liberal areas, which is mainly the coastal cities and the bigger cities, bigger areas. And then red was everywhere else. And somebody posted and was like, yeah, so there's more red than blue. I'm like, no, that's just landmass. Yeah. If you actually show proper population, it's more blue than red.
But then it's also just, like, who's voting and blah, 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 blah. Yeah. But, I mean, I just watched this video of this, like, dude who's, like, wearing a Kaepernick, and he's going into a Trump rally, and there's just, like, mad people. It's, like, the scariest people that, like, to me, like, I would not want to be in that area. But he just, like, walks in with that Kaepernick jersey, like, runs downstairs. He doesn't really do anything. He's just, like, walking around, and they, like, security kicks him out, and they're all just, like, booing him, and they're like, get that. That's like the most, like, vulgar stuff. It's just like, damn, yo, like,
I would love to wear a Kaepernick jersey with him and do that stuff.
I mean, I still can't because he was wearing that 49ers. Like, I can't wear that 49ers.
Yeah. Well, I wanted Kaepernick for the Seahawks, man. That would have been great.
Yeah.
Shout out to my sister Amanda and Luke for tuning in as well. Plot twist. I want to play Chutes and Ladders. That's right. We got these games.
Yeah, those games is fresh. Like, yeah.
The experiences that I've had growing up living outside of Seattle, big suburb of Kansas, small town in Kansas, Utah, California, and Virginia, and now back in Seattle, the more people you get together from all different walks of life, the more you understand that racism is pretty much bullshit. Yeah. You know, and judging somebody by the color of their skin is not fair both ways.
Yeah, no question.
The race relations now, a lot of people have said, like, oh, it's getting worse and worse and worse. Like, I think it's just become more and more talked about.
No, I mean, no
question.
People
have come out.
It's like, what, like 100, like you're just saying that all that stuff happened in the 20s, and we're moving to the 20s again. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, it's not, it's some isolated incident or like everything's like explosion. It's like, nah, it's like been like something bubbling.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. After hearing and seeing a number of conversations about this, I am fully invested and converted in the idea of reparations. We have seen reparations work in other countries, in particular Germany. When after World War II, the only real way for future generations of the German populace to heal was to have proper reparations for the Jews, the Gypsies, the Poles, and others that were affected after World War II. And I know a number of times that conversation comes up here and there, and you'll hear people gawk like, "Oh, why should my children pay for the sins of our fathers?" Like, because we're already paying now, because we're living in a society where we still have to deal with this.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely a proponent for reparations. There needs to be actions to heal the history of this country, because it just continues to perpetuate more and more and more. And as more and more whites become disenfranchised,
Which causes it because it's like lower income people fighting other lower income.
Yeah,
keeps like
it's poverty fighting poverty.
It's just like okay, like blah blah blah, and then instead of like attacking the real issue, which is you guys don't have money because it's a capitalistic society. You know what I'm saying? It's like nah, it's because of this. You know,
and that's why I love Dave Chappelle when in a couple of his stand up specials ago. He went to go vote and he saw all these white people lined up.
In his neighborhood. Yeah. Super funny.
And he's like, Trump's not working for you.
Yeah.
He's working for me because I'm rich.
Yeah.
He does his base gives him that power because they want this idealistic thought of what the country was, and the country was never that.
Yeah.
And it is very, very frustrating because I know that they're hurting. Like to dismiss them that they're not hurting is bad. And I loved that Barack Obama in one of his final presidential speeches says we need to listen to people that are hurting no matter what color skin they are. Yeah. And how much more we have in common of what the struggles are. But the people in power always want to point towards somebody else. Oh, it's the immigrants, or oh, it's these people that are causing.
The easiest thing to do as a politician to get votes, which is what their job is to do, is to get votes. That's like the easiest way to do it. You're like, it's them, blah blah blah, vote for me because that guy wants them. Da da da. Yeah.
To vote,
isolate people. Yeah, separate
for
people.
Feelings and fears rather than facts.
Exactly.
It's frustrating, man. And having lived in a lot of different cities, I'm just happy that I went to college and got to learn so much about different people. I mean, hell, I was a Mormon for so long and had certain ideas and viewpoints because that's what it was taught to me.
Yeah, but it still gave you like a foundation like that you could build upon. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can like take away some of it that doesn't work, but for the most part, like, so it made you who you are today. So.
And that this is real, the human connection.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
That, treating people with kindness actually does make a difference.
Yeah, exactly.
The other way around. How would you want Seattle to improve race relations?
Race relations? Yeah. I mean, I don't know, man. Seattle's like a weird spot. It's like there's just like so many different communities. Here's a huge Asian community. I mean, my barber shop, like my barber, Rick, he's like, like Filipino or something? Like, yeah, most definitely. And then like, before I moved here, like I went to a black barber shop. You know what I'm saying? You remember Rachel Dolezal?
Yeah.
Yeah, she brought her kids to the same barber shop that I went to. Like, I seen her around. She was the head of the NAACP over in Spokane. I thought that she was mixed, you know what I'm saying? Like, and like, I'm not gonna assume someone's not mixed.
Well, wasn't she raised?
She was raised by a white family that had a bunch of adopted black kids, or like African kids. So she said that she identified with that struggle, blah blah blah. But she dated mostly black men. She was a head of like the African studies at Eastern Washington University. She ran the NAACP chapter that was in Spokane. She wrote for the Inlander, which is like basically the Stranger out here. She was killing the game, and she was helping a lot of people. She's still like, what people don't know, like she's still in Spokane. Like she has a hair salon, or like she does it outside of her house, and like a bunch of black women still fuck with her and kick it with her, and they're just like, yep, I don't care, like you black to me, like I know you. It's cultural, you know what I'm saying? Culturally, it just seemed like America like mass like attacked her.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And they didn't even really understand it, like the SNL skits, all this stuff. Like, yeah, she lied saying that she was black, but she still was like helping a shit ton of people. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, there's more nuances to it rather than what the media would just talk about at the surface level.
I mean, yeah, it just like helped. Like, it's easy to make a joke about that sort of stuff, but it's just like, and like honestly, what's that like conversation with that, like if someone identifies as a different race? And I mean, like that's a conversation, I guess, moving into the 20s again. Like, there's if these people are hurting, you know what I'm saying, and they feel a certain way, like how could they not, you know, be who they are? Yeah.
And that culture is important because you're able to identify amidst your peers and amidst your group, you know, to have this kind of interconnected group of people that you love and hang out with and kind of see the world in kind of the same way, you know?
And I mean, to bring on that like culture, like video games brings a lot of people together. People shit on video games. Like you be mean, like, I mean, mad women out here, they be like, oh, I can't believe all these people play video games like all the time, like da 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 da. Like, I mean, I don't really play that much. Like, I have my Game Boy Color sometimes, like I'll be playing like some Pokemon Blue or some shit, but yeah, like they're just like, oh, video games, da da da. But like that does bring a lot of different kids together, especially at a young age.
Like, absolutely, man. I met so many people from around the world just playing online. I met people that lived in Sequim, Washington. Out of all the places around the world, I was playing StarCraft Brood War back in the late 90s and joined this clan, joined this guild. And we're like, yeah, I live in Washington State. I'm just south of Seattle and Federal Way. They're like, oh, no shit. We live in Sequim. Let's hang out. And I was like, okay, sounds cool. So I was 13 at the time, and they were like 17, 18, 19, so a little bit older than me. My parents came with me. They're like, yeah, we'll take a weekend. We'll go chill. And they met their parents, and they're like, all right, looks like everybody's copacetic. Everything's safe. You kids go have fun. And we had like one of the best sleepover kick-ass times ever, man. Yeah, and nice. I still see those guys on Facebook here and there. All sorts. I remember having discussions with a homosexual player where he's just like, yeah, man, I'm gay. And I kind of made this joke, well, don't hit on me, huh? And he's just like, yeah, I don't plan to. Yeah, and I look back on it, I was like, yeah, that was stupid of me to say.
Dick move. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like a lot of stuff that people get offended on, like, or like, I mean, like, especially with stuff like that. Like, of course, like now you're just like, yo, I should not have said that. That is a fucked up thing to say. But like, yeah.
And we evolve as people.
Yeah, exactly. And you're just like, all right. And you like, I mean, reflecting on that as like everyone has shit that they've said that's weird. You cringe. You're just like, oh man, I can't believe I would say something like that. But yeah.
Yeah, and I don't think it's fair to be fired for something that you said 6 years ago in a tweet that you already apologized for multiple times.
You're talking about the Guardians of the Galaxy?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I am. James Gunn.
Okay.
That whole debacle for me really exposed which YouTubers or YouTube content creators I felt had integrity and others that were just chasing any headlines to try to make views and try to get views.
And try to promote their brand, I guess.
Yeah.
Like get their brand more,
And so I subscribed from a lot of, a handful of YouTube content creators after that debacle because it's like, yeah, James Gunn, he's a pervert. I can't believe this. I'm like, are you serious right now? Because you're acting like a MAGA agent. I kind of wanted to say, but it was sparked from the right, the alt-right, going back and finding these tweets because they didn't like.
They're great at the internet. They're trolls to the max. Yeah. Like the alt-right, content creators, like their teams, all those people, like that Milo Yiannopoulos guy. I mean, I guess they canceled him, but like that team, like far more than I've seen for like any side, like any left side, the alt-right. They are crazy on this meme stuff. Like that's like that 9gag, like fucking like deep web.
But there's an audience. That audience is disenfranchised white males typically. And Dave Chappelle again says it beautifully. It's just like why a lot of the difference between black people and white people that are in poverty is white people didn't think that it would happen to them, and so there's this giant amount of anger that happens in society. So then they huddle up in these forums and these groups and they keep passing this information and passing their anger back and forth and it starts to bubble up and they feel like there's this force that's working against the system. The system's trying to oppress them. I am saddened by that the internet, some parts of the internet get a really bad rap, but at the same time you have to take it seriously because the FBI takes it seriously, especially when you have one of these massive shooters go and execute their diabolical plan. You go back and look at the forums and like, yeah, he said he was going to do it, then he did it.
Not everything, yeah, true. And then they got people behind him who are just like, yeah, do it, yeah.
So I think the only way to fight that is to bring these people back into the fold.
I remember what show I was watching was just like, yeah, you need to get off of. It was like that. I watched like the first episode of the American Horror Story cult, but the first episode had to do with the Trump election, and like there's like some kid who was just like was annoyed with that, like, or after Trump got elected or something, he went to his congressman and he's just like, yeah, this gives me blah 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 blah, and the congressmen were just like, I'm glad that you got off the internet for a second and like came to this forum to like talk to us, but we're people who are living in real life and are actually changing legislation like through the community that we're living in right now. He's like, I'm glad that you got off the internet, came out of your house, blah, 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 but just like, nah, we're doing stuff right now. And you were just like, blah, blah, blah. But it's just like a different perspective of that stuff. That show was really weird. I had to turn it off afterwards. But I was just like, oh, okay. Because it just like, it started off with like with Sarah Paulson or whatever. I think that's
Sarah Paulson. Yeah.
Yep. Her and her like partner or whatever in that show, like she plays like a lesbian character. And they're watching the election, the 2016 election.
She starts like freaking out.
Yeah, she starts freaking out and like crying, and like there's like the guy who's the cancelman. He's like some like Asian descent with his wife, and he like yells at his wife, just like, if you would have voted, none of this would have happened. But no, that's not true because she won the popular vote, the Electoral Colleges. You know what I'm saying? Blah blah blah. But
Hillary Clinton
She won the popular vote.
Hillary, but it shouldn't have been even that close, honestly. But this was a fuck you vote to the system from a massive amount of people that were hurting after 30 years of bad politics. One of the best things that President Obama did was, I think, two big things was legalizing gay marriage and also Obamacare. It didn't go all the way. His campaign promises was Medicare for all. He capitulated with the Republicans, yes, but it was a step further. And I was
bipartisan.
I promoted that on the White House website. They reached out to the studio I was working for, and they said, "Hey, we want some people in the esports video game scene to promote this." And I said, "Yeah, definitely." Because I was looking at what my healthcare cost was going to be as an independent contractor compared to having a healthcare plan,
a couple $100 a month.
So I definitely was for it, and I'm totally for Medicare for all because it's the best system. Period. Everybody's going to save money, and everybody's going to have better health.
So you're a communist.
Socialist, different, or democratic socialist. The really infuriating part about that is when the mainstream media says, "Oh, it was Russia. It was Russia that did this." I'm like, are you really saying that America is so fucking weak that Russia just came in and changed the election and changed the course of history? No. The reason why this happened is because these 30 years of policies have left us in the state that people wanted to say fuck you and vote for Trump.
Yeah, I mean, that was funny. I was just reading some article. I think it's a CNN article. How Russia was the admin, a Russian account was the admin of a Facebook page called Cops Lives Matter. Had over a million people in that group. A bunch are Americans, but the admin of that group was a Russian. Mm-hmm. During it's still running, but it's just that's crazy. They're just spewing all this stuff, posting all these articles from the U.S. Kind of just easily giving them if that's what their job is to do, get intel on what America's
so discontent amongst the American population.
They're just getting it they're just feeding it to them because they're the admin of that page. It's super easy. It's not it was some crazy we're hacking into all the system. No, it was really simple. They just created a page called Cops Lives Matter. And we're the admin of that page, and all those people just spewed what they were feeling.
Psychological manipulation. Yeah. I mean, if you're able to press those hot button topics and to stir the pot a bit, Vladimir Putin is the president of Russia for a number of certain reasons. If you go back and look at his history, there's a lot of dead people and false flags and whatnot.
He was one of their equivalent of a CIA agent for a minute.
Yeah, KGB for sure.
Yeah,
but the media gives him too much power.
Oh no!
I mean, they to dismiss the hurting people and the citizens and the trillions of dollars we're spending in 76 different countries. We're in 7 wars right now.
Yeah, proxy wars.
Yeah, all these proxy wars, these regime change wars.
Yeah,
that's never brought up because the ones that are funding the commercials, the commercials that you see on CNN and others, are Lockheed Martin, Boeing, and all these other giant
no question.
Contractors.
It's people have money within it. Boeing has a bunch of contracts with the government.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see that?
Amazon does now too.
That documentary on that woman, I can't remember her name, but she was in Silicon Valley and she said that she created this box.
Yes,
yeah, dude, that film was dope. I can't remember the name of that film.
Yeah, but she. Blonde hair, very stoic face, huge eyes.
She was homies with everyone from Warren Buffett to the fucking Rockefellers, every single person. Kissinger, Kissinger was about to disown his grandson who was working for him because he was one of the whistleblowers saying that they couldn't do what it was doing and they were going live. And he's just you're selling trade secrets, da 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 da. He's just my grandpa was about to disown me, and so everyone was yeah, she's a liar.
The vision was to be able to do your own medical tests at home using that box instead of having to go to the hospital, blah, 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 and therefore be able to catch stuff ahead of time. So on paper, it sounds like a cool idea.
But it's a tiny little box.
Didn't work.
Yeah. And they were just lying, falsifying all that stuff. But they sold it they were worth over $500 billion at one point. And it was just because she lied. She lied her way and got the connects to just And I mean, just how culty it seemed. I mean, it was just in these Googles or Amazons or any of that stuff. Remember the vision, da 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 da. But this was real.
And you see the guy that she was dating. He was also the CEO, COO, and he's just oh no, fuck those people that says this is gonna work and stuff like that. It's cultish.
Yeah.
And also you're pretty invested if your paycheck is tied to the success of that, right? So if you're starting to find the facts and the info, it's like, this stuff is not going to work. Do you want to cut and run
There's
or
like
try to milk as much money as much?
The receptionist is just like, yo, I did that blood test for my kids and myself, and after I heard all that stuff, like I had to go get it checked again because she was taking specific medications, you know what I'm saying, because that blood test said this, da-da-da-da-da. So it's just like
a grifter. Grifter, as we like to call him, which is how Trump made a name for himself as well, grifting so many people.
How she was able to manipulate herself into getting like a $500 billion corporation. You know what I'm saying? That's crazy.
Well, man, having worked in the esports industry for almost a decade, it's full of dumb money.
Yeah.
Nobody's really making money in esports. The return on investment isn't there. If you're a third-party company trying to create your own tournament, the people that are making money are the ones that actually make the video games, right? Because they are trying to sell game copies and also sell in-game transactions, microtransactions, to make more games in the future and to fund their company.
They're switching it like, all right, buy the $60 game. All right, here's the DLCs, blah, 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 all this. Like, just a formula behind it. And why it doesn't seem like they care that much about, like, sequels or some shit like that. Like, it's just like, I mean, some games are better after, blah, 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 but, like, they're just like, I have a name now. I don't need to invest all those same people that did, that worked on the first one to work on the second one.
Yeah.
The name will sell.
Dude, that happens so much in Hollywood where you'll have amazing first season of a TV show and then all the writers get hired somewhere else because they're going to pay them more money. Yeah. And then the TV show second season is not as good.
Yeah. Because they have the name. They're just like, all right, cool, boom.
Yeah. So in the video game world, you have these franchises. Like Halo. Halo right now is going into Halo Infinite, its next Halo iteration.
And those ones are crazy. Like, it's just like, it's honestly just the same thing. And people keep buying the same, like Modern Warfare.
It's the same thing, but it's not even made by the same people. Like, the original team that made Halo isn't there anymore.
No, that's...
Activision's Call of Duty. Halo is 343 Industries, owned by Microsoft.
Okay.
But I have to disassociate the brand title from the actual quality, because if it's not the same director, writer, game tech, systems operator, it's not the same thing. It's not the same thing. And gaming has had a real problem with that, especially Blizzard. Fuck you, Blizzard, for being against democracy, by the way. I was talking to a friend of mine who I've worked with for almost a decade, and I told him I'm probably never going to buy a Blizzard game or work with Blizzard ever again, what they did with that Hong Kong player. He's
what happened?
So there was a player playing a Hearthstone tournament, an official Hearthstone tournament under Blizzard, and it was in China. Okay. And he, during the interview, had a Hong Kong protester mask and goggles and a hat, and he said, a free Hong Kong. He was for that.
Okay.
And the commentators that were commentating the match ducked their heads below the desk to not be associated with it. And China immediately told Blizzard that they had to forfeit the Hong Kong player, take all of his prize money away, and also fire the commentators.
Damn.
Because he said free Hong Kong on a broadcast. And then in America, there was a collegiate Hearthstone tournament, again, officially sanctioned by Blizzard, and the team put up a sign that said free Hong Kong, protest, Blizzard's action. And Blizzard did not do anything against those guys. So it became this complete, clear, fully transparent, China is dictating what Americans can do within their own art. And it blew up. The gaming scene exploded and went, this is completely unacceptable. You have broken the trust of everybody that's ever invested in this company ever since it was formed way back in the 90s. This is despicable. And it was so despicable that the U.S. Congress, both Democrats and Republicans, got together and sent a letter to Bobby Kotick, the CEO of Activision Blizzard, and said, you must cease and desist. This is grossly horrible, un-American, all this stuff. What is even crazier about it is South Park just had an episode about this, about Chinese censorship. And it was so good because I could see parts and pieces of that in Hollywood when I was working there, because China would censor things in a script. They wouldn't allow references to ghosts or goblins or ghouls or skeletons. They even changed that in video games. They used to call this person the Skeleton King.
China?
They would censor to completely take it out. And even with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, China wanted to take out all the Bruce Lee scenes because Bruce Lee's from Hong Kong. Yeah. And Quentin Tarantino said, fuck you, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to censor my films so I can make more money in China.
Yeah.
But it has really come to a head lately, and it's been boiling up to this.
It's crazy. I mean, not surprising. I feel like,
because there's a big market in China, because the Chinese in the last 30 years, 99% of them were living below the poverty line, and now only 1% of China lives below the poverty line. I mean, President Xi and that entire system really overhaul the entire country, and kudos to them. They've done some amazing work, and their infrastructure is incredible.
They're helping their people.
Yeah, and they can repair a bridge. There's a video.
That's a crazy statistic.
They can expand a bridge where it would, the bridge they're repairing right now at White Swan Public House. They're telling us it's going to take 19 months to fix all that stuff.
Most definitely.
China can do the same thing in 48 hours or less, and I've seen videos of them doing it. Because they know, like, if there's any downtime for the entire economy and the whole state, it's going to hurt all the businesses around them. So they don't want that to happen. The government's going to come in, boom, and it's done.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of great technological feats and a wholeness that you see from the government that we can appreciate from our side.
Yeah.
But it's the human rights and the lack of self-expression that is a huge concern for us as a democratic republic. And
are those mutually exclusive, you think?
I don't think they have to be, but for the Chinese government to dictate what Americans can do in their own art is bad. That's not good.
I mean, I guess it's just if they want to make money.
Sure. Now, if you want to do whatever you want to make money in China and censorship, that's your own prerogative. That's fine. I mean, okay. But when it comes to you can't even make it because China says so, or you're going to be banned for expressing yourself because China says so. The NBA went through this with Daryl Morey, talking about that stuff, but gratefully the NBA came out and said, we are an American company and we are going to bring our American values wherever we travel abroad. It is very, very frustrating, man, because I've been to China. The Chinese people are great. My ex-girlfriend is Chinese, right? So the people, and I think it's the same thing for Americans. People love Americans. They hate our government. It's like we love the Chinese people, but the government has some problems. So hopefully we can work through it. When I was in the Air Force, we were discussing the future because obviously the Middle East was the major conflict after 9/11 and also the crazy Iraq invasion that we did and a whole bunch of stupid ideas that we did in that section. But it was always this looming idea that China is the next growing superpower. Yeah. Just like between Germany and the rest of the European countries in the early 1900s, leading into the 1914, the start of World War I, is because Germany was taking all of the manufacturing jobs. They were making all the pianos and the instruments and the farm tools and stuff, and they were rising as a new empire, and they wanted their place in the sun. Well, all the older empires that were waning, Spain, France, UK, were like, they're starting to encroach on our space. More conflict happened, and boom.
That's like Red Dawn. Like the original Red Dawn was Russia coming and invading Spokane. Spokane. And
Wolverines. Love that movie.
The second, like the remake of Red Dawn, it's Chinese. Like China's coming through into Spokane and messing up that spot.
Because they're the rising empire now. But this has been happening ever since the Peloponnesian War, when one of the first historians talked about this war happened. It was because Sparta was concerned with the rise of Athens. Sparta and Athens had that war because Athens was starting to rise up. So this has been a kind of a continual thing with the whole human experience.
It's fear. You're afraid of them, so you're going to attack them.
But we've never had the fast, effective modes of communication like we have today.
Oh yeah, now it's instantaneous. Like it's not just like that's going down. It's like no, that's being filmed and televised at every single spot.
So hopefully we can avoid this pattern of warfare and it doesn't happen. And there have been instances in the history of the world where a rising empire and the older empire have not fought.
Imagine if Athens and Sparta had drones.
Oh man. That'd be kind of a neat idea. Go back to ancient Greece, but they actually had dope technology.
That's a Netflix original right there.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
They got cell phones, like rich people up in that stuff. Especially Rome, like Colosseum battles and all that stuff.
Yeah,
they're taking selfies out of like a Colosseum battle.
It's almost what Aquaman kind of felt like if they had drones back then. Did you see Aquaman?
I have not seen
it. It's a fun film. I actually really enjoyed it. Yeah. They're definitely gonna make a sequel because it made $1 billion. But
damn. Well, I mean, everyone going to just see what's his face, the lead actor.
Momoa. Yeah, Momoa. I got to work with him on a show. I talked to him real briefly. He was a guest for a video game tournament that we were doing.
Cool.
And on his rider, the items that a guest or a celebrity wants in their dressing room was Guinness. That's all he wanted, Guinness and beef jerky. I've worked with other artists, like they want socks. I've heard one artist only wanted this color of M&Ms. things that seem so specific and asinine, but that's what they want, and we're paying them to be there.
I heard the Skittles one or whatever. Like, I only want this specific color.
Yeah. I think it was a band or something that did that, but
yeah, just like asshole moves, or it's just like, I mean, what do they say? They're just like,
it's usually champagne. It's usually they want champagne and refreshments and stuff. I mean, who wouldn't, right?
Yeah, I mean, facts. If you're gonna get some free stuff, most definitely.
Well, speaking of shows, are there any plans for you to perform live with any of these tracks or with any of your beats?
Yeah, nothing that's really like set up right now. I think I'm gonna go play some shows in Bellingham soon. You know what I'm saying? But not really. You know what I'm saying? I'm just like working on new stuff continuously every single day, saving money. Yeah.
Right on. Yeah. What's funny, man, is I see you on stage performing one of these days.
Yeah.
Like, you have that presence, and again, working in the service industry and always being in front of people helps keep those tools sharp.
Yeah.
Is that something that you would like to do in the future? And I
love to play shows. It's really just like where though.
Okay.
Like, I mean, there's some spots like up on Cap Hill. I played most of these spots here. It's just like I just don't like the vibe. I feel like I just don't like some like new type of like way. Like, I don't know, maybe like some like park or something like bring like speakers, just like set it up differently, some different vibe. I mean, I guess I'm down with like some of these like larger venues, but like all these like kind of small ones, I'm just like the energy is just like weird when I'm in here. Like, it's just like it's not.
You kind of want a medium-sized room to for your music to fill the space.
Yeah, facts.
Okay.
So,
what are some venues that you've been to, and do you have any kind of particular favorite venues in the Seattle area?
In the Seattle area, that I mean, Numos is cool. Crocodiles is all right. Where else is pretty cool? I mean, I don't know, man. Like, I guess like, I don't really know.
Okay. Well, I don't really know either, man.
Because I went and saw like a couple shows out here, but like, yeah, I'm just like trying to see from the perspective of like being on stage in those spots. But yeah. I mean, what was that spot that's like downtown in Pike?
The theater? There's
the
Soto.
Spot that we had that company party at.
I don't think I was there at that one.
All right, for sure.
Sorry.
Okay. I mean, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, there's a bunch. Like, Soto's got a couple that are like fairly large, but yeah.
Showbox Soto's the one I'm most familiar with because I've performed there on stage
Showbox,
as a commentator.
that was that company party. Like, yeah, Showbox, like it was like a karaoke thing.
Okay.
But yeah, Showbox was cool, but I don't know, just like the vibes in all those spots is like hella just like I don't know.
Feeling it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, shoot. If I know of a park that is doing that type of rotation,
like something that's like
fun.
crazy. You know what I'm saying? You can just have like more fun.
Or like on the beach.
Yeah,
I do a bonfire and get some speakers up.
Yeah, it won't even be that hard, man. Like, it's like a generator and like some speakers, and
there you go.
Bring the party and people are kicking it. Yeah.
Funny enough, my family has some property in Ocean Shores, which is a bit of a drive from here, and I need to go check it out and see kind of what the property looks like, where it's at. Is it going to be flooded when climate change floods the coast? Should we get rid of it as a family or invest? Should I just grow weed on that property?
You probably should just grow weed everywhere, but.
Yeah, I'm working on that, but that'd be dope, man. Yeah. That'd be really cool. Well, shoot, I'll definitely, I'm doing the Friendsgiving I'm hosting here in November. You're obviously invited, but I'll definitely have a couple of your tracks playing. I'll have to tell my neighbors, like, hey, we're going to be playing some music till about 11 o'clock, so nobody freak out. But it's going to be a good time.
The neighbor call the cops on you because the door's open.
Oh, yeah. Great. No, I think you can apply for a permit or something ahead of time. Be like, hey, we're going to be hosting a party.
It's true. I mean, and it's like, I think
it's like 10 o'clock. Like 10 o'clock, you have to have the sound curfew or something. But as long as you pay for the permit, know your neighbors, it shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah, exactly. And and like what all they're going to do is come to your house. And be like,
I mean, why the hell am I paying property taxes for if I can't utilize my property for a party once or twice?
It's true. I mean, if it's like every single day and it's like crazy out here, but like, nah, I feel like all your friends are going to be like normal people.
Yeah, my neighbors over here are really cool. They're doing a lot of construction in their backyard. So if they even complain like, hey, you're making a lot of noise, like, yo, you guys are hammering all day. All right. No, but they're awesome. Neighbors over here are super quiet. Everybody around here has been super cool, man.
Yeah, it seems like a nice neighborhood.
Yeah, it's a good spot. This house, I think, was built, I don't know. Probably definitely mid-century. So I'm thinking like 40s maybe, like after World War II type of expansion.
I feel it. I feel that energy.
Yeah.
It feels like a 40s energy.
Yeah. So, well, you definitely felt it when this whole garage was just chock full of mid-century furniture and a bunch of other stuff. Yeah,
all these board games. Yeah, most definitely.
As you can see.
Cool.
TV shows. You watching anything right now? Binging anything?
Am I binging anything? What was I watching? Not really. I haven't been like keeping up on my TV. Anything you recommend?
Definitely, I'd watch that first Watchmen episode for sure.
Okay.
A couple things on Netflix. I've been diving more into documentaries. I was watching The Family on Netflix, which I find very important for people to watch in terms of, at least for me, because I have hostility towards religion because of my background, yet I need to have patience and respect for anybody's faith, and I do.
Yeah.
It is when people weaponize faith in political
as a tool.
spheres.
I mean, most definitely, to manipulate people, which is like,
or to push policies that are not fair for everybody.
Because I feel like, with religion, like, they want other people to also be the same thing as them. I mean, specifically with Christianity, you know what I'm saying? Like, they're just like, like, and then they use like the, I'm afraid your soul's going to go to hell, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm like trying to help you type thing, which just adds that other thing, like they're righteous behind trying to get. And
so why are they doing it because they actually love you, or are they doing it because one of the scriptures is, blessed are thou who bring many souls into heaven, for, you're going to have a lot of riches, etc. In The Family, it exposes this mentality from a specific group of people who are senators and congressmen and leaders in America, is that God ordains any leader that's elected. So Trump is therefore God's hand.
Okay.
And being against Trump would be against God.
Okay.
And it's that type of justification and political manipulation that these people maintain power and keep their power. Yeah. So it's not even like,
because you have like the political, like, I love this guy's policies, like the way he's doing, but then you also have like that added like thing that's like intangible, which is that God, like,
he's infallible,
God,
right? Because they've been anointed because they were elected, right? God wouldn't have allowed it to happen if that election was there.
I guess that's on that case or Sarah tip, but I don't know. I mean, I feel like it's just like
I find it a little bit dangerous when it's so finite and concrete. Like, well, that's the way it has to be. It's like,
I mean, it's not, because it could not be that way.
Leave under Caesar what's Caesar's, right? Leave the politics under that stuff. So I haven't finished it yet, but it definitely created a number of instances, examples, people that helped me kind of sharpen my anger to, I shouldn't be mad at somebody for having faith or religion. I should be mad at somebody if they're using that to change policies.
Well, it's funny. There's a lot of like it's like separation between church and state.
Absolutely.
But you swear on a Bible when you're in court.
You don't have. I'm going to swear on the Constitution whenever I take, or you can swear on the Quran.
It's like one God under, like, it's like
one nation under God on our money.
It's just like a lot of just like, okay, what confusing, but
it's tough. Our nation has a history of Judeo-Christianity. That's undeniable, but most Western
also a lot of esoteric culty shit.
Yep.
With the founding fathers.
But we also have history of non-religion.
Yeah, it's true. That's got everything. That's why religious persecution,
that's why this nation was. That's why so many people flocked to this country after the Revolutionary War and its establishment in the 1800s, is because so many people were sick of the bullshit between religions. They wanted to flee to a country, not only freedom of religion, but freedom from religion.
Facts, both.
And that had not really existed in this world at that time. And that's why the founding fathers modeled it after the Greek form of democracy.
The religion is that money god.
Yeah, that's right. That's the God everybody worships, is money right now, man. Do you think we as a human species in our lifetime will ever be off money or use another type of system?
I mean, gold? Yeah.
Off fiat currency and back to gold. I mean, hell, you used to be able to pay in chickens and pay in corn.
That's still money,
trade that way.
We got that chicken currency, bro. What'd that wallet look like, though?
Just pluck a couple feathers or something. Be like, this is 3 chickens. I'll bring them tomorrow. Well, speaking of chickens, I'm thinking about building a chicken coop right here next to the garage and having a couple chickens back here. I mean, I'll have to pay for eggs ever again. Yeah, that'd be cool. True, and then I think my cat wouldn't mess with them. When they're chicks, I'd have to watch out for them. But then,
but when they're a big chicken, like a cat's not gonna.
They'll peck back. Yeah. I mean, you saw her. She was just in here. She meowed for a sec to see what was up, and then she took off. Sometimes she'll jump on the table, but I love having a cat. I love having a pet. I'm single. I've been single for most of my life, so it allows me to come home and talk to another creature. Doesn't really talk back to me, but it just meows. But there's some sort of fulfillment that I have for caring for another living being.
Yeah, it makes you get up, feed it, give it some water.
You
Brita filter that water, you give it tap.
Oh, I give it tap.
The cats know.
I drink tap so she can drink tap. It's fine. Tap water's good here. No, I I really, really, really advise anybody who is living single, maybe feels lonely, to definitely get a pet. It does
mental health. Yeah,
it does help.
I mean,
definitely
yeah,
mental
you're
health.
just like alone.
Yeah.
Facts.
Not a fun place to be sometimes, especially as an artist, because there's so much self-doubt in the world of being an artist.
Yeah.
One of my agent in Virginia, one of her quotes was, "The greater the artist, the greater the doubt." And that always sticks with me, because that is one of the biggest fears I have right now, going back into performing on stage and musicals and theater, is, am I even good enough? Like, there's so many other people that have been doing this for years. I don't stand a chance. That mentality is not healthy.
Oh, no, not at all.
It's not fair. But that is the fear that I have to break through, and that doubt that I have to break through.
I feel what you're saying, most definitely, man. Yeah. Facts.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why a lot of people stop, too.
Yeah.
Like, they're just like, nah.
Yeah, I mean, even creating a YouTube channel here, for me, I was really gung-ho to make a lot of Mortal Kombat content and be really excited, but then I got the Microsoft gig that took up a lot of my time, and I kept telling myself, okay, I'm going to get back to it. Then I see all these other YouTube content creators are like, we're not making any money on the Mortal Kombat stuff that we're creating every day. So I had to reconfigure, okay, well, I don't want to make a 10-minute video every day, which is what a lot of people on YouTube do. Yeah,
they're just like
make
content,
money.
the content, but it's just like, nah, man, that's like with anything. It's like you make a bunch of cookie-cutter videos, or you make some quality content.
Which is why I'd rather do Battle for Seattle.
You build a like a brand and like loyalty. Like people will be like, oh, I'm gonna go to this guy's podcast because he has like quality content, not because it's just like he puts out videos every day. So might as well just check him out.
But
like,
YouTube rewards those that put out videos every day because they can put more ads on it. Where to me, I pay for YouTube Red and I don't have any ads. Ads are a waste of time. I'd rather spend the $10 a month and not look at ads whatsoever.
And $10 is not that much.
Yeah, and that has been the shift of the economy for artists and media content. Is our generation is more willing to pay for a subscription. Right? Yeah. Netflix, Hulu.
It's true.
All this other stuff.
That's a lot. They're making a shit ton. Like, they got 1 million people spending $10 a month. Nah, man, they got like several million people.
Because it's a better service.
Yeah,
it's a better service.
And then it's like Spotify, any of that stuff. It's true.
And you know what's crazy is when I watch football, we had the game on at White Swan yesterday.
Yeah.
And when the commercials play.
How was the vibes in there from that loss? Because that sucked. I didn't get to watch the game. I haven't even seen the game in a minute. But I just remember watching that Russell Wilson hasn't thrown a pick in like, it was like 40 games or something.
It was deflating, especially how well they were doing the previous game.
Yeah.
It was deflating. It seemed like we were really on track. We had found our pace for this season, and we were in lockstep with the plays, the calls, the defense, the offense. But that was not the case for the last game. Yeah. So, but hey, that can happen. It's better it happens earlier in this season right now.
We only have 2 losses
later on.
But
we'll see. Have you been to a Seahawks game lately?
I have not. I went to like a preseason game, but not like actual regular season game.
Would you ever work at one of the stadiums, like in service or?
I have a homie who works like bartends around that area, but nah, I would not do that. Yeah, I mean, it makes some money. Like, I don't know, it just seems like way too fast paced, and like, I mean, that's why I'm not like a server or bartender or something like that. If someone's like annoying or like a customer is just like being an asshole, like it's hard for me to hide my face or like my emotions. I try to be fake. But I think
that's why I'm getting that acting bug back, is because there's so much acting I have to do with certain customers. I hear you, man. Sometimes I look over at Chef Roman or Bear, some of the cooks, and I'm like, you guys want to trade? Just for the night? I'll just deep fry. I'll just do the fries, and then you guys can make the drinks and talk to the people. But it's okay. I mean, I had a really awesome moment at Radiator Whiskey 2 Saturdays ago, where we had a father and a son. It was the father's birthday, and they were sitting at that like my favorite table, the one that's in the corner and it's next to the Buffalo Head, where you can see all of Pike Place.
Yeah.
And they were asking about the menu, and the father asked, "Is there any buffalo on the menu today?" And he pointed up to the head, and I said, "Oh no, sir, we don't have any buffalo on the menu. I mean, I wish we had some. I wish we had some raw buffalo heart, Kevin Costner style, but we do not. However, we do have buffalo trace." And they kind of laughed, and so later in the night, I went over to Krista, general manager, one of the greatest human beings on the planet, and said, "What do you want to do for them? They're wrapping up their dinner." And she said, "Let's just do shots of buffalo trace." And I went, "Perfect." So I lit a candle, put it in the middle, and then had 2 shots of buffalo trace and brought it to them. I said, "All right, gentlemen, like I said, I had nothing when it came to buffalo on the menu, but we do have buffalo trace. Here you go." And they're like, "Oh, this is perfect." It totally made their night. And it's those moments that make you really appreciate the role of being a server and making the night for somebody.
Yeah, no question.
Really
I mean, it's not like it's all bad.
No.
Yeah,
no
question.
So,
but like, I mean, you could have a day where it's like all bad. And you're like, why am I even here? What's going on? Like, but I mean, it's like that for like any position. Like you're getting like railed with tickets or like random stuff. You know what I'm saying? And then other times, like you're just chilling, and the other person's like having to deal with the situation. So it's like comes and goes.
It comes and goes, man. You know, Sunday night we were down to 2 people. Mia was in the bar and I was working the floor, and then we had 2 in the kitchen. And it was slow Sunday for the brunch, but then all of a sudden after the game was over, boom, we got hit dinner hour.
Yeah.
And we were rocking and rolling, going back and forth.
It's running.
And
but sometimes that's fun too, because it makes time go by quickly.
Yeah, it definitely does for sure. But it was that the flow. They call it the flow, where it's in between being stressed and bored, where you have just enough work and time is flying like that.
Yeah, exactly.
And I love that feeling.
It's the best. No question, especially at work, because you're there to work. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So if you're working and it's like it's not too stressful, so you're having fun and it's going by quickly.
So do you find the inspiration or the music that comes out or a beat that falls in your head, does it happen like at any time, or do you find it happening when you're at home chilling, or when?
Oh, it could happen anytime.
Anytime, yeah, same for me.
Walking down the street, like, oh shit, why am I not in front of? I
gotta write this down. You're looking around. Do you have a pen? You have paper?
Yeah. I mean, that's like good. You got like the little headphones that just like have like the speaker and stuff, so you can like just like beatbox or like hum a melody, or just like. Sometimes you don't even have to write it down or like talk to text apps, so it's just like boom. Like
I have about I'm pointing at there. It's my phone. I have about 15 beats that I've recorded beatboxing that have come to me. I love beatboxing. It's something that I've done ever since junior high. And I sent a couple to a friend of mine in LA. Be like, hey man, is there something we can do with this? Like, what do you mean? It's like, well, I mean, take the percussion and actually use a percussion instrument. Take this tone.
They have the algorithms and stuff now where like you could just like format that from that audio wave into like MIDI. So it's just like, you just like click it.
I've seen that MIDI device. I've seen some really cool videos on YouTube. I forgot what it's called. It's white, but he takes that line from Tropic Thunder, Robert Downey Jr.'s character. He's like, I know who I am. Yeah. I'm a dude playing a dude disguised another dude. But he cut it up and turned it into a song. And when I heard that song all day, I was singing it like, I know who I am. I'm a dude playing a dude. Sky's another dude.
Yeah, I think
that stuff is catchy as hell. But I love that type of creativity that you can do with those type of devices.
You can do like pretty much anything that you want to do. It's just doing it. It's crazy.
Just got to do it.
Yeah.
Just got to do it. So how do you organize your time throughout the week, since you're working about 5 days a week? Like, do you schedule out, okay, I'm going to be making beats during this time, or you just let it happen?
It kind of goes like month to month, week to week. Like some weeks I'll be like, oh, okay, I'm crazy. Just like boom, boom, boom. And then other ones I'm just like flowing with what's going on. Like someone that's like, yo, want to go out after work or something, grab a drink, then that leads to like 5, and then you like wake up later, but then da-da-da. But then sometimes like in that like little 30-minute crunch where you're hungover and you need to go to work, I make some crazy ass beats. So it's just like,
it's great. Yeah. It's great. Every little bit helps too, because sometimes I feel like, all right, I got to schedule out the time to get this done, or I got to schedule out the time to write or write the script. And sometimes I will. But other times I'll wake up and go, okay, I'm going to clean the house, and then I'm just going to write for 2 hours and get it done. And that creativity will flow, and I'll feel amazing. It feels like I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing in that moment.
Just like, you can't tack it. Yeah,
it's awesome. Well, I just got to do it more, man. That's the most difficult part about all of this, is that it's ultimately up to us.
Yeah, it's true. You got to just make sure you do it. But I mean, like you said, like that, there's that fire that's just like it's like you can't not do it.
You can't not do it.
It seems like it's like, well, what? Like, I don't even know what I'd be living for if I wasn't like doing something creative, really. Like,
I had a very eye-opening conversation with an old flame of mine who came and visited in Seattle a little while ago. She's doing very well. She's getting married here pretty soon.
Cool.
And I told her about, my passion and why I want to do this, because we went to college together where I got my acting degree. And she says, you have this burning passion. You have to do it. You're going to be great at it. I don't have that. I know my passion is somewhere else. And when she said that, it made me feel not just more comfortable, but like, okay.
Yeah, it's like a silver, like grass is always greener type thing, where it's just like, oh, I have this and I have to do, and then other people are just like, yo, I don't even know what I want to do with my, like, I have no idea.
Yeah.
That's why I'm just doing this, and I'm just, exactly.
It made me feel that was really a part of me, and
Yeah.
not just some egotistical dream
thing, like
of
you're
I
just
want to
like-
do it to be famous.
That's
and all that
usually
stuff.
what
It's like, no.
happens with like creative stuff like that. People are just like, yo, why? Like delusions of grandeur. type
Delusions
shit.
of grandeur.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you. That's the exact phrase I was looking for, man.
Because you have something that like you've been working on and you've been trying to do like for a minute, and like people see that and they like get intimidated or like think that that's coming from like a place of ego, when it's just like, nah, this is really just like what's inside me. And yeah,
This is exactly why I'm doing this ayahuasca trip this weekend, man. I mean,
Stoked for you,
I
man.
want to melt the ego away. Graham Hancock, who's a wonderful writer, I consider him the modern day Indiana Jones.
Okay.
He's traveled the world and has showed that history is a lot older than what the textbooks say.
Okay. I mean, not surprised. Dark Ages, people burning books, crusades, yo, like
Yeah,
I'm not surprised.
when all the conquistadors and the missionaries came here and burned all the
Yeah.
historical records of the Native
Yeah, I
Americans
mean,
and
that's
all that
key
stuff.
to what happened like everywhere. You get some knowledge, people be like, nah, burn it down.
Yeah. There's now archaeological evidence to showcase this.
Okay.
There's even some of it here in Washington of
Yeah.
these kind of shorter people, but they lived 20,000+ years ago, and they had technology to drill through rock.
Not surprised.
The biggest example I can give that gets me stoked every single time and always inspires me to look at the night sky, which is one of the things I think we are missing as a species right now.
Yeah, because all this
of the
artificial
light.
light.
Yeah.
And you don't even like, people don't even like, luckily as a kid, like I grew up in like the woodsy areas, you know what I'm saying? Like reservations and like spots in Oregon where like you could look up at the night sky and there's not all this artificial light pollution. But kids growing up in major cities nowadays, like your child, like some of them haven't even seen the night sky or never will see the night sky.
And
It's crazy.
so much of our history and our DNA is associated with that.
Yeah,
That's how we
exactly.
knew what. I mean, hell, most
That's why people
religions
have a
were
lot of
formed
these-
because
yeah,
of that.
exactly. That's why they have like a lot of like mental health issues, honestly, like because they're not getting like this surrounding like nature aspect of being a human being on this planet. You get all this artificial stuff that's man-made.
I think you're really onto something there, man.
Yeah.
Especially the unhappiness that a lot of people feel.
Yeah.
That they're disconnected.
That's why people are just like, yo, I need to go to the woods. You know what I'm saying? Like, I need to go spend some days out in like the wilderness. Yeah, it's like a breath of fresh air. I feel better after I do that. Yeah, it's not like some crazy thing. Like, that's what you need to do.
I already felt better after I moved to Seattle,
Yeah.
away from the desert of Los Angeles into the seasons and the green and the water of Seattle, because I'm originally from here.
Yeah.
This is my original stomping ground. And I
Yeah.
felt like I was connecting back to that world. And I did Boy Scouts and camped a lot as a kid. My grandparents camped a lot. So that's been instilled in me, and I could definitely feel it. I could definitely feel it when I was missing it, for
Yeah.
sure. The one prime example I want to give about Graham Hancock is Egypt.
Okay.
So you know the 3 pyramids in
Yeah.
Egypt, those 3 famous pyramids. Well, currently, if you line them up to the night sky, they don't really line up with anything.
Yeah, I saw some photos. I had this conversation like way back. I remember this.
Yeah.
It's pretty funny. It got in a heated argument too. It was like, people started getting mad at it. They're like, no, it's not. And they pull up a photo on their phone like, see, it matches. And the person's like, no, that's fake. This,
Yeah.
It's
Well,
funny, but
there,
yeah.
there was a special even Charlton Heston did, I think, in the 90s about this. But so they don't match anything with the night sky. And
Yeah.
next to those 3 pyramids is the Sphinx,
Okay.
which has a lion's body, but currently has kind of a chiseled down
like Michael
Egyptian
Jackson.
face. Whew, sure. Yeah, we'll go with that. But if you wind the clocks back to about 12,000 plus years ago, the night sky looked different,
Oh, no
right?
question.
Because we go through the procession. We
Yeah,
have the
there's-
12
we're
signs of the
going
equinox.
somewhere, but
Yeah.
yeah.
So we're currently in Pisces, and we're going to be moving into Aquarius, I think, by like 2100 or something.
Okay.
Dawning of the age of Aquarius. You look at history, and during the time of Moses, before then, it was the bull. The bull, like
Yeah.
or the calf, and the story of the people worshiping the calf and stuff, because that was the procession they were in
Yeah,
until
exactly.
they moved into Aries, the ram's horn, blowing the ram's horn.
Yeah.
All of that is
It's funny.
symbolic.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, exactly. It's true. It's
because
crazy.
it's showing.
But then
the-
they lose the like, because it switches and they're just like, oh, this doesn't match up. I don't understand what's going on with this. And then they build it all again and then
So if you go back to way back to when Leo, the lion, was the constellation that the Earth was in, the 3 pyramids line up perfectly with Orion's belt. And also the water damage, the water erosion around the Sphinx dates the Sphinx to that time, to over 12,000 years old.
Okay.
The Egyptians were they created a monument that would stand the test of time to showcase something big happened during this time and space. And so for them to be able to pinpoint the time of history was to line up the night sky with that. And they built that giant statue to say this is during the time that we were in Leo the Lion.
Yeah.
And most likely that's when a giant flood happened. A lot of scientists say
like catastrophic,
like a meteor hit section of North America caused all the coastal cities to flood, and also caused that end of the ice age, and a lot of
got rid of Atlantis.
Yeah, exactly. But they talk about that getting rid of Atlantis, but Atlantis may not have been just an island. It could have been.
I'm just saying, like underneath the
culture.
sea, you know what I'm saying, like sea levels, water going spots. Like there's probably civilizations underneath the water, like,
roads
that are just like done, and then just gonna keep doing that.
Yeah. So even more evidence is showcasing amongst multiple cultures and multiple areas. They call it like temple sites, but they line up perfectly with
so much stuff. Yeah, I mean,
the longitude,
there's
latitude.
pyramids that are in like, you know, the Native American, like, you know, like it's crazy.
So even a lot of Native American legends tell of these people that came across the sea on floating snakes, or flying snakes, and they taught them agriculture and all this stuff.
All of those, it's crazy.
The Mexicans, Indochina has those legends. Some parts of Native Americans have those legends. So most likely, what happened was there's a pretty distinct culture. Maybe had some sort of technology back then.
And it probably it doesn't have to be aliens. They could just be like dead ass, like it on this earth, like us, and like other cultures see that, but then we get wiped out, and it's one of those cultures that just saw that stuff happen and they're writing on it and they're like, oh, then they build up, keeps happening, you know what I'm saying?
So if we create the exact same scenario, right? Meteor comes, most of the coastal cities are flooded.
There's still untouched civilizations out here.
There are. And they're the ones.
Mass like rises up, we flood, they get in, like they're alive now.
They're like, the ones that are going to survive because they know how to survive.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know how to build a car, right? I know how a car works, but I don't know how to recreate that technology. I don't know how to build a phone.
Except for Bear Grylls.
No, he would survive in the wilderness. That's fine. Like I have some okay survival skills from growing up as an Eagle Scout, sure, but those are the people that are going to survive. And once they survive, they don't really know how technology works. And then you have this person or group of people that know how the technology works, but they don't have, you know, the materials to make it. All the tools are gone, but they go, okay, well, here's knowledge about the earth, how to do agriculture, how the sky works, and that's how those cultures grew.
Exactly.
And that I think that's one of the most important and fascinating conversations that people are having today, because it shows how much older we are as a species and how all of this can collapse.
Facts in seconds, like you know what I'm saying? Yeah.
So I find that very, very exciting. I really think that we're poised for some sort of revolution, bro. Because of this information that we have, the technology age, there are some downsides, being less connected to nature, a lot of fake news and other things that are floating out there. But I have been able to learn so much and absorb so much from that type of history and from actual evidence.
And we're learning, and we're able to learn all of this through technology. Like we're like, it's like a phone. It's like a thought. You're like, boom. Back in the day, people have a thought like that. They go to the library. It takes like miles to go there. You know what I'm saying? Like some Anna Green Gables shit. Like you like take like 7 miles to walk to school. And they only got like Anna 5 Green books Gables. Up in there.
Sick reference, bro. No, it's absolutely right. Yeah. I mean, you look even in our lifetime, dude. I had to go to the library and rent out books if I want to learn more about alien abductions or other things I didn't know a whole lot about.
Yeah.
But now you can find out if you actually want to go to this restaurant to see if they have a 5-star review or not. But I think we're starting to get past that phase too of we're starting to see the limits of technology and how it doesn't replace certain things that make us human.
Yeah, thanks.
And I think that is also one of the greatest fears, especially Elon Musk has with AI, is that, AI is amazing in terms of what its capabilities are, but it cannot replace the full human experience.
Exactly. He ain't got no AI girlfriend. Like, yo, check it out. This Susie. I named her Susie, bro.
Did you ever see the movie Her with Joaquin Phoenix? I think that's such a great film.
Dude, Joaquin Phoenix just kills the game, honestly. Like, The Master, that movie's crazy.
Yeah, dude. I think we were talking about that last time I saw you. That Philip Seymour Hoffman scene where he would slap him, right, and start again when he was interviewing him.
Yeah.
Did you watch I Was Never Really There?
Nah.
It's on Amazon Prime.
Okay,
it was
cool.
made by Joaquin Phoenix. He's a veteran that comes back from the war, and he is a gun for hire, and he finds girls that have been kidnapped.
Okay.
It's a really good film.
Something like Equalizer shit?
Yes, but it's more internal.
Okay.
It's more about him kind of struggling with getting back into society.
PTSD type stuff.
PTSD, absolutely. But it's not. It's done in such a smart way, and because he's such a good actor, where you'll watch him walking down a hallway, but in your mind you're going, holy shit.
Yeah.
Like you can feel the intensity and the tension. So I definitely would recommend it. And also watching it, it almost feels like a prequel to Joker.
Okay.
To where you can see why Todd Phillips is like, I have to have Joaquin Phoenix play Joker.
To play this, yeah.
So I would really recommend it. It was really well shot. There's a very beautiful scene 2/3 through the movie that when I told Roman the other day that I saw it, he's just like, oh, this is like, we immediately talked about that scene, how beautiful it was. So I'd highly recommend it. And for everybody watching at home, totally check out. It's either I was never really here, I was never really there. I get it mixed up, but it's starring Joaquin Phoenix.
I was just like last night, I just like fell asleep trying to find a movie. Like I was just like, what?
It's a bit of a slow burn, but if you're in the mood to pay attention and watch a really good film, I definitely recommend it.
Is the cinematography good?
Oh yeah, okay, good cinematography. Good cinematography. Did you see Once Upon a Time in Hollywood?
I have not.
Okay, I recommend that one too. I'm trying to think anything else that came out this year. Endgame was so huge.
Yeah, that was giant. It just took that's what I'm saying. $1 billion investment to like a $3 billion. Like that's just like theaters money.
Yeah. But you talked about formula. You know how I think this is the next phase. Well, pardon the pun. They're going into phase 4. Yeah. But the next phase for Disney and Marvel is okay. How do we continue this story and not make it feel formulaic? Yeah. And Thor Ragnarok really helped in that.
Well, yeah, they're just like, oh, we add humor to this, but still make it like serious, so you can be serious with it.
Yeah. But it was really refreshing because it felt. It was a Marvel film, but it felt different. It was just new blood, new energy from Taika Waititi.
And it was tight because it was just like that's the first time besides Guardians where you get to see like part of the universe.
The space side for sure. So I'm looking forward to more of those type of films as well. But again, Joker I think has really changed everything.
Well, I like how that's like not like. There's no superheroes in that universe. Mm-mm. It's just like straight, like it's just a vigilante like Batman, and then a bunch of just like criminals that are
And that's where Batman thrives. And then Christopher Nolan,
Facts. Well, I mean, when you brought some Ben Affleck Batman into this like weird it just I don't know the Justice League it didn't really work.
It was off to a bad start with Man of Steel.
Martha.
Why did you say that name? And freaking Lois Lane drops a spear in the water that has to go back and grab the spear, but then she has to be rescued by Superman because she's drowning. It just didn't work. Yeah. The screenplay didn't work. And the same writer of Batman v Superman and Justice League, Chris Terrio, he's the writer on Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker.
Well, it's about to go down.
And they are still...
I have no idea what's going on in any of those
They
films.
are still filming, Zay. They're still filming pickup shoots for Rise of Skywalker, and the movie comes out in 63 days.
Damn.
Disney is scrambling.
What?
The trailer dropped last night. Tickets are on sale.
They sued George Lucas for defamation because he said that those movies were trash.
Made by white slavers.
Yeah, he was like, these are trash. You're like, yo, you can't say that. I mean, they paid him a clean $1 billion for Lucas.
Yeah, well, he said he didn't like that they weren't introducing anything new.
Yeah, in his doing the same thing.
His sequel trilogy, he wanted to focus on the midichlorians and the microverse. Like he wanted to dive into that realm. And most of us that are Star Wars fans are like, no, we'd rather have the Force be mystical. This is a lot of pressure on Kathleen Kennedy and J.J. Abrams and Pablo Hidalgo and the story group at Lucasfilm, because this is going to be the make or break for their entire careers for a while. Because if this film flops, it proves everything that the fans have been saying. And they they insulted the fans. Rian Johnson, Pablo Hidalgo, Kathleen Kennedy. They're like, we're not making films for fanboys and white males. Like, you're not making films for the majority of the audience that built up that whole empire.
Who's going to purchase what you want.
I like Rey. She is a Mary Sue. I still like her. And I want to see where her struggle goes. But people are like, she's not a Mary Sue. Like, she is a Mary Sue. Yeah. She is the quintessential definition of a Mary Sue. Yeah. But I still like her because Daisy Ridley brings that charm and that charisma to it. So I don't mind it. Yeah. I would like to see her struggle a bit, Luke got his motherfucking hand cut off in Empire Strikes Back. We're like, yeah, Luke was a Mary Sue. Excuse me, what the fuck did you just say?
He kissed his sister. And he cut his hand cut off, bro. That sounds like a struggle to me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm super passionate about Star Wars because when I grew up in my faith, Star Wars was the closest thing I could describe the universe that God had created. Like, everything's connected. Every living being has an essence, a spirit, a soul to it. And the reason why that connection is there is because Gary Kurtz, who produced Star Wars and Empire Strikes Back, was Mormon.
Yeah.
And he helped bring a bit of the mysticism to it. He directed the scenes with Yoda and Luke on Dagobah. So when Yoda's talking about the rock, the trees, you can feel it meant so much to me.
Of like a religious
And then now that I'm non-religious, that is still important to me because I still sense there is some sort of consciousness or something amongst life.
Yeah, I mean, facts,
but not from the top down by some
but maybe just
bearded white guy.
Connected. Yeah,
but
facts.
From the ground up. Yeah.
So
I still find it very profound and powerful, and it's a great film, and I love the journey. If I'm guilty too much of being a fanboy, so be it. But when you have a character like Luke Skywalker embody so much of these, the moral hero, and then to completely dismiss him in The Last Jedi, just felt wrong. Felt just really wrong. And I think that's why there's so much animosity and people thinking that Star Wars is a dead franchise, dead brand. But also, the fatigue of trying to reboot or do soft reboots of these things that were successful in the past compared to Marvel, where all the kids are buying all the Marvel toys. All the kids are buying all the Marvel costumes.
Facts.
They're not really buying the Star Wars stuff.
Yeah, it's not the same. Yeah, a kid nowadays is not going to be like, oh yeah, like Ray or what's his face, like
Finn and Poe, and
they're like back in the day. Yeah, you got Luke and Han, but of course they're gonna be like Spider-Man, and Iron Man, and the Hulk, and
that's totally fine. That's great. That's the evolution of generations and history and whatnot. That's awesome. I just really hope that it's a good film with a good story that has a very satisfying ending, and if it doesn't, they have no feet to stand on saying that, the fans were toxic or it was Russian bots. Like, no, you did not make a quality film that did not live up to the legend. And again, the pressure is insurmountable, right? How do you make a film that people would think is still worthy as the original trilogy? Force Awakens was decent enough, right? So at least they started off okay. But after The Last Jedi, they definitely made a mistake. I would watch a number of YouTube content creators that have made careers now of just dissing Star Wars and talking how the media is not just corrupt, but out of ideas and stuff like that. And they definitely have a point. Yeah. But I don't want to make a career out of talking bad about Star Wars.
Well, yeah, it's like if you think that there's something lacking, like you see a demand for something, then why would you not just
make
create
it? Yeah, yes,
why would you not be
yourself.
A content creator yourself? Instead of just talking shit about other people's content.
Yeah, I would rather make my own stories, scripts, movies, plays.
Yeah, exactly. Especially if you're just there's nothing creative. Be creative, man.
But there is always the role for a critic. Yeah. And one of the critics that I like the most, she has a series called Beyond the Trailer on YouTube. Her name is Grace. Uh-huh. And I don't agree with her all the time. Yeah. But
well, I mean, sometimes you just read critics to laugh. That's what I do with Yelp reviews of everything. I'll be looking at restaurants I work at or other things, and I'll just be like, "Oh, okay, this is funny." Someone's just
but is there
cheap or
And some of those riffs are even better than the film.
Yeah, exactly.
But their passion and their expertise in terms of the audience's viewpoint and what works, I always take that into account because they're the ones paying at the end of the day.
Yeah, facts.
And if they're not satisfied. It could have been a story they didn't necessarily agree with, but if they're like, that was a really cool journey, I really liked it, then it was worth their money.
Well, it was the same with the Dave Chappelle thing. They had 5 critics review that film. It got 0 stars or 1 star or something. And then they opened the floodgates to fans reviewing it on Rotten Tomatoes, and it had a 99.
99, yeah. And that again is a clear-cut exposure of access media. That's one of the phrases Nerdrotic uses on YouTube. Access media that pushes that ultra liberal. I don't even want to say liberal. It pushes this agenda that is immature. Where I understand where they're coming from. Yeah. I understand why.
I can see why you're saying it's immature because it's you're trying to. It's you're talking to a child. You're just trying to close it off. You're just all right.
No, I'm not.
You can't hear all these things or hear this type of joke or this type of stuff because you feel like it's gonna corrupt them or something. Mm-hmm. But if everyone's an adult, then
yeah, and we can have a conversation and disagree and present facts and feelings about it and emotions and stuff like that. And I have had so much more headway with Republicans, talking face to face and finding things that we agree with and don't agree with and stuff. When I go to New York or other places with friends or parties. Yeah. And I remember one guy, he was a really strong Republican Catholic at New York, and I was at a friend's Thanksgiving party about 2 years ago, and we started to talk about everything. And he went over to the host of the party. He's like, you got to bring this guy more. He's a really cool guy, pointing to me and stuff. And I said, yeah, man, isn't it great that we can have this type of conversation amongst ourselves, away from the pundits on media, away from the tweets attacking each other, and actually find out where the disgruntled parts are?
Well, away from like being like canceled by your own culture. You know
or being in your own bubble.
Yeah, like you're just like, all right, this is how I feel comfortable here. Even though even in those settings, like people are just afraid to disagree with their own people.
Yeah. That is a tough place to be for some people that are writers, especially for articles where, the editor or the publication's like, oh, Dave Chappelle just came out and he had jokes that involve transsexuals, so therefore it's transphobic, and you have to write that it's transphobic. It's like, no, it's how is it transphobic if you're trying to be inclusive, right? I think one of the greatest gifts you can give to any type of person or people or however you want to identify yourself is to kind of poke fun and rib and say, hey, you're part of the group. You're part of the crew.
Dehumanizing.
No, it's humanizing, if you will. And I think also because there's such a history of injustice amidst our country that more and more of us have been exposed to because of the internet and knowledge and information, that we have this anger and we want to do something about it, but it's directed at the wrong place, or it's advocating something that isn't necessarily correct in the long term.
You're getting rid of that emotion that's inside you, but in the wrong area.
Yeah. But that's another thing about being a great artist, man, is that you get to express those emotions in some ways and talk about it, and people can resonate with it and go, oh, shit, that lyric was great. It's exactly what I was going through. And to be able to share that. And I think that's why art is so vitally important, especially from independent artists, because we're going to find more of that genuine voice amongst those independent artists. And there's a lot of great independent channels for artists to express themselves. And I'm really happy about that. When I was in college, one of my favorite professors talked about, if you're going to be an artist in this new digital age, the best way to get started is to think of it this way. Have 1,000 true fans. And the definition of a true fan is someone who's willing to spend up to $100, maybe a little bit more, a year on your merchandise, album sales, subscription service, whatever. At the end of the day, if you have 1,000 of those people willing to spend $100,
you can live.
It's $100,000 after taxes, $60,000, right?
You're in a good tax bracket.
So you're in a good spot. And if you, in my mind, if I can cultivate either a Patreon or subscription or whatever that is willing to spend $100 a year on what I create, I'm set for life with that type of mentality. But I just have to continually be honest and crank out things that I feel absolutely 100% passionate about and not try to bend over backwards for corporations. I did that for a long time in LA. And I'm very grateful for the body of work and the experiences that I had, but that is not the world that I want to be in right now. I'd rather be that struggling independent artist, independent person.
Build your own brand. Have more say in what you're doing. Most definitely.
Zay, how old are you?
I'm 23.
He's 23, y'all, with a bright future ahead. Where do you want to be at 30?
Where do I want to be at 30? I mean, I want to have like $1 million in my bank account. Easy. Most definitely. And then other than that, like, I feel like I could do a lot with that. There's a lot of like avenues where I would want to make money. I think having a restaurant would be dope. There's a lot of ideas I have with that. Definitely like a label, like help other artists that are doing stuff. I mean, making films, a bunch of different stuff. I feel like I would definitely not want to be boxed into one thing. But cool.
So, but you see these kind of multiple avenues, multiple branches, but all of them seem feasible because you have experience in it.
It's a shit ton of experience in all this. So just like, like I definitely can see how all this is done, and I'm seeing like my friends like doing it. You know what I'm saying? So
I'm glad you said that too, because I have had that similar experience working in the service industry now. When I make enough money and I'm very happy with my career in the future, I want to open a restaurant and call it Chino's after my father, who is one of the best cooks. I mean, I'm biased, he's my dad, but best cooks. And growing up, probably how I got so tall is because how good he cooks.
Giving you that good nutrients.
Yeah.
Take your vitamins? No, eat my food.
Eat my food. He just turned 61 years old, so happy birthday, Dad.
Happy birthday.
And very charming guy. You know, Still very charming, very charismatic. He's a mix of like Jack Nicholson and Robert Downey Jr., I'd say.
Okay.
So kind of having that vibe and that mentality has instilled in me kind of my attitude as an adult. You know, we kind of grow up to be a bit like our fathers or mothers. And to cultivate that in a restaurant, I think would be really cool in the future. For sure. And I like the name, Geno's. You know?
Yeah, most definitely.
So that's been on my mind for a little while. But for me, I'm 33, and I want to have $2.5 million in the bank by the age of 50.
Clean. And that's feasible.
It's feasible. It's just gotta sell some scripts and grind and throw some money in some high yield mutual funds and let those build for years. But I know that I could live off of a lifestyle of $100,000 a year for the rest of my life, and having $2.5 million in the bank, living on 4% interest would be $100,000 a year.
Yeah.
So that would be retirement, that in the bank, let it sit forever and just live off the interest. So that's kind of the ultimate goal of me before I hit retirement. But I know the process to get there. I do not want to work for major corporations to be another bean counter sitting in front of a computer screen. I want to be on my feet singing, dancing, and acting and performing. And if not doing that, bartending or all that stuff. Like it's really neat for me after having experience and success and been on television and have a great relationship with Warner Brothers. Awesome. So happy to have that body of work. But that has helped me understand what I want to do and don't want to do for like the rest of my life. I think that's one of the most important things we learn in our 30s. And I'm happy to hear that you already kind of have those goals set for you already and you're already working on them now. So it's really smart and good for you to do. A lot of people don't have that. Hell, a lot of people in their 30s are still trying to figure out what they want to do. But 20s are for experimenting and 30s are kind of more for creating that solid foundation for the future.
I'm going to experiment on how to make $1 million.
What was even kind of crazy for me to think about too, and this is where I was stemming from, kind of that whole human revolution, is there's 4 kids in my family. I'm the oldest of 4. Parents still together, been married for 34 years. And I'm now the same age as my dad when he had the youngest kid, my brother.
Okay, that's good.
So my mom was working, ran a daycare out of the house. Dad was working construction. They made it work, and they built a family, and here we are today. I have no idea how I'd be able to execute the same thing. The economy is not there. Job market is not there. Obviously I would love to find a beautiful woman and get married and make that happen, but I don't want her to work for the first 5 years. I would either one of us to be home with the kid, not just dumping the kid off of daycare every day type thing. But our economy doesn't work that way anymore. Everybody has to work. So I think there has to be a change, because if we can I don't necessarily go back to that system, but if a family can really be a family through those formative years, and not every family's different, it could be a single parent, but if they had some sort of help from the government, from the system, I think all of our lives would dramatically be better. And we see other countries do that already. Hell, in some of the Nordic countries, you have a kid, the mom has maternity leave for the whole year, and she gets paid, I believe, at least 75% of her salary, if not a whole 100%. And the state or the government will send over somebody to help her with laundry. Will send over, or daycare is free. Like, all this stuff is free, provided by the state, because they realize how important it is for the citizen to have those things taken care of.
And the children, at the end of the day.
And now, and South Park talked about this too, now with these children who are being detained and separated from their parents.
The border. That shit.
They're the ones that grow up to be Joker.
I mean, most definitely, you have that, like, hate for,
So there needs to be a definite transformation. I just really hope that the baby boomers can either see the light or die off fast enough for us to change it before it.
Pass some legislation like anybody past 65 can't vote.
I don't know. It's something to discuss, sure, but it is. We're in very troubled times, but I do see some glimmers of light, and I'm just happy that we were able to have the things that we do have today, man, because obviously it could be a lot worse.
Oh, no question.
It could be a lot worse for us, for sure. So definitely grateful about a lot of things, but there's a lot of things immediately that I think that we can fix, and also to stop thinking necessarily globally and start thinking more locally.
Facts.
What can we do in our local communities that actually help people?
You sound like a credit union right now.
I do, because I probably did a couple voiceover commercials for a credit union a while ago. But one of the goals I want to have for December is I'm going to knock on every single one of my neighbors' doors and give them a little pamphlet. Say, hey, I'm going to have a little campfire in my backyard, do hot chocolate, coffee, marshmallows. You want to come over, get to know each other? We're going to do a little powwow, little street party type thing. I liked having those as a kid. We had block parties as a kid.
Exactly. I remember those as a child too. Again, I guess the economy was just
economy's doing good.
They're like, hey, yeah, we got money. Let's kick it with everybody. Now everyone's just like, no, I'm going home. I'm sleeping.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get up and and watch the Netflix. But yeah,
80s and 90s are pretty good, man. And but again, these we're living the consequences of the policies that have been instilled in the American system for the last 30 years. And trickle down doesn't work.
Nope.
Trickle down doesn't work. Okay,
Oh,
they've tried it multiple times. It doesn't work, and that's why we're here today. Well, we talked about a lot of different topics, bro. Is there anything else you'd like to discuss?
Yeah. I think we're good. We covered everything. Yeah,
we did, bro. So finally, where can people find you on social media?
All right. So IMA chilling basically is every single handle. Maybe a little fluctuation on everything, but besides that,
IMA album's available right now on Spotify. Calm Down. The link is in the description below. Zay, absolute pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you so much.
Yeah, this was fun.
I'm going to do one final plug for myself. Battle for Seattle is happening January 12th. 4 players, everyone paid, $500 prize pool. I know who the 4 players are, folks. I've already selected them, and I'll be revealing who they are here pretty soon. It's going to be a lot of fun, and it will be featuring some of the tracks here from IMA himself. Stay tuned, as always, for more episodes down the line at Mr. Joshua Gray on the social media, all the social media, Instagram, and Twitter. Thank you so much for tuning in. Till next time, good night and good game.